This episode of The Big 60 is brought to you by Inviva. Unlock the power of your home equity.
If you're old enough to remember when phones had cords and the only thing that went viral was a cold, then you're in the right place. Welcome to The Big 60 with Kayley Harris and Guy Rawlinson. Because who better to discuss life's second act than two people who still think mature is a type of cheese?
Well, hello everyone, and thanks for joining us on the Big 60. I'm Guy Rawlinson, and today we're talking about mothers, the original emotional support hotline, the guilt distributors, and the only people who can actually ask, have you eaten? Usually about 30 seconds after you've already told them you have. And so whether your mum is still here, they're keeping tabs on you from above, or they're well into their 80s or 90s and still trying to feed you like you're on the brink of starvation, this one is for her. And joining me is someone who's living proof that not all mothers operate the same way. Because did your mum ever skip that, are you really going out wearing that line? Kayley Harris, how are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you. And we thought we'd talk about this because last week was Mother's Day. And we thought we'd talk about the podcast about our mothers, the good, the bad, and, well, everything in between.
Yeah, look, we all love our mums. Well, yes. Most of us do, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah. You would hope so.
You'd like to think so. They brought you into the world, and, regardless of, when they're not there, we miss them.
Yeah, we sure do. So let's talk about mothers, okay? Starting from the first mother that I remember was my grandmother's.
Of course.
So I had obviously paternal and maternal grandmothers, but what do you remember about your grandmothers, Guy?
Oh, look, I not only my grandmothers, but my great-grandmother. I still remember her from when I was I think she passed away when I was about 4 or 5. So my great-grandmother and great-grandfather, they lived at Balmain when Balmain was not the Balmain that we know in Sydney these days. It was a very working-class suburb. And I remember my mother and grandmother telling me as a little boy that when I walked into the house, I had to shake my great-grandfather's hand but not speak until I was spoken to. But then I was rushed to the back of the house into the kitchen, which was at the back of the house, where my great-grandmother, my grandmother, and my mother would all be in the kitchen, and that's where the kids would go before we had to go outside and play. So that 3-generation thing, I still have memories of being out there with Florence, my grandmother Daphne, and my mother Wendy, just as a 4-year-old. So,
oh my goodness,
so many fond memories there. But yeah, that's going back a bit now.
That's really weird because I had a great grandmother Florence as well.
Oh my gosh! Wow, are we related? Are we related by any chance?
I think we must be. We need to do a DNA. Oh. We could be weirdly related. I recall one of my grandmothers suffered from depression, and I remember her, this sorry figure, and she would be sitting in a chair most of the time, smoking very heavily. My sister and I didn't interact with her too much. I mean, I loved her, obviously, but, she was a sad lady. My other grandmother was very strict, and my sister was just reminding me recently that she slapped me across the face one day for back answering my mother when I was about 10, and I don't remember it, but my sister is still traumatized by, I remember Nana slapping you across the face.
Wow.
I said, what did I do? And she said, you started crying, and I was like, oh, wow, I probably deserved it. I can say that now. But
can you even say that you deserved it?
I'm sure I did. I was probably back answering. And like you were saying with, you shake hands and don't talk until you're spoken to. I think there was a lot of that going on with that grandma, that I would have probably given her a bit of lip or something, and she's giving it right back.
It was a generational thing. And I clearly remember, the other thing I remember from my, I was probably about 6 or 7, and in that era, and you have to remember that at a certain age, the last Great War, as far as the Second World War, is something that your grandparents had lived through, and probably your parents in a lot of cases. And I remember when we were at school, you'd be playing wars and you'd be whatever. And my father telling me that when we went round to visit, his dad and his mum, that you're not allowed to ask, your grandfather about the war, and don't ask him about the tattoos on his arm, because unlike today, if you had tattoos on your arm, it was usually because you're in the army or the navy or you'd served. You didn't go down to the local tattoo parlour. But that was something as well. My grandmother on my father's side would be sitting at the kitchen table drinking black tea and probably having a cigarette, which is what you did as well.
Yep.
But yeah, it was one of those things that was drummed into you. Don't talk to your grandparents about the war. You just don't touch it.
Same in our family. I think that's probably in a lot of families as well. But what do you remember about, as a young guy, what do you remember about your mum when you were little? What memories do you have of your mum?
Yeah, most of them were pretty fond. I remember, once again, my grandmother. We would go into the city, like into Sydney town, as Mum would call it, but would get dressed up. Mum would get dressed up. My grandmother would wear gloves and a hat.
Yep.
Because you'd go
Everyone's
in there,
grandmother wore gloves and a hat.
and a hat, and you'd go into town. And probably my earliest memory of all that was you'd go to I think it was like the David Jones cafeteria in town, and I'd had a little jacket and a tie. I don't know, you've seen the photograph. I had a little jacket and a tie, and because you dressed up when you went into town, and you went on the bus and the train, because people didn't have two cars. There was a car in a family, and that was pretty much it. And I remember two things vividly. One is that I got into David Jones' cafeteria, and I'd been brought up that you need to say grace before a meal, and so I knelt on the ground.
Oh,
and my mother said, "No, love, you don't need to say grace here." But apparently, I won a few hearts in the David Jones cafeteria, but then didn't win too many hearts next time, because you used to put the money into little riding horses that would be, the horses that go backwards and forwards, and you put like 20 cents or whatever it is. And I decided, there was a little car, and I wanted to do that, and Mum took her eyes off me for just a minute or two, and I decided clothes are just an unnecessary accessory. So I took all my gear off, and there I am sitting completely naked in this car. And
is that when it started?
Yeah, and at 22, probably not a good thing to do. I don't know. What about you? What's your earliest memories of your mum?
Oh, well, same thing. Going into Brisbane and to David Jones, and you'd all get all dressed up. But my mother was wonderful. I know everyone says that about their mum. She kind of held the family together through some pretty tough times. And I think I may have mentioned this to you before. My mum was an airline hostie with TAA back in the day, and she was, as I look at photos of her now, she was very glamorous, and women back in, Audrey Hepburn kind of looks, classic looks and everything. She was also very religious, but not judgmental. It was just something personal to her. But yeah, she flew for TAA for about, I think it was only about a year, because back then you couldn't, then we've discussed this on a previous podcast. You couldn't work once you got married. So, but yeah, I remember Mum as being very glamorous. And then in the 70s, she had the big brown boots up to her knees and the really cool mini skirts and short dresses and
I've seen you in that gear. That's alluring.
And the big hair, and she had the hair up, and the big sunglasses that women wore back then. So, that's my earliest memories of my mum. She was there a lot more than Dad was, because he was obviously off working a lot. So, and Mum was home with us. So, yeah.
And we all have fond memories, and there's a million stories that we've all got. Everything from, whether it's your mum with sort of knee-high, thigh-high boots or whatever with TAA, and my mum. Some of the things that are universal with mums, though, things like, I don't know if your mum ever used to, like spitting on their hanky if you've got something on your face and wiping it off. Is that a universal thing with mums?
Yeah, absolutely it is. Or my mum would put 20 cents into a corner of a hanky, and she'd wrap it up in the corner of the hanky in case I needed to phone home, in case I was out somewhere and I needed to jump in the payphone. I had 20 cents wrapped in the corner of a hanky. But yeah, and they were always forever putting bobby pins in your hair and
I know the problem. Know the problem. But I do remember getting money tied up into a hanky. But what kids carry a hanky anymore, let alone coins? I mean,
no.
Hankies
are considered very
Yeah,
not sanitary these
that's
days.
it. But licking the hanky, wiping your face because you've got something on it, I think that's got to be a universal mum tactic.
Yeah, try doing that to your kids these days. In fact, I want you to try and do that with your grandchildren and let me know how it goes.
Yeah, I might try. Did you have a medicine cabinet that had absolutely everything in it at your house?
Yep, the Becks, the Aspro Clear, we had all of that stuff in the,
Wow, we had something called pink ointment, and I can't remember, like Ayrton's or something, pink ointment, and it cured everything. Like you could have lost a limb, and if you just put a little of this pink sort of
it wasn't calamine lotion, was it? Because I think every house had calamine lotion as well.
They did have it was an English thing, I think, and it was pink and it was really thick, but it didn't matter if you put it on and a Band-Aid, you were
everything
right.
would be fixed.
And it's like Vicks, like if you had Vicks on your chest, and that pretty much fixed everything as well, So.
Yeah, well, if you had an injury of any kind and you went home crying, and mum just going there, it's all right, love, and giving you a kiss on the head and maybe sticking a Band-Aid. It's funny how the pain just went away and you went straight back outside and kept playing. Yeah,
it's like that magic water bottle that they used to have at footy. Like, mum recognises that there's an issue. Yep, okay, good, okay, off you go. Here's your arm as well. Thanks, Mum. How was your mum with cooking? Because my mum could do magic things with mince, and like 4 times a week, and and it didn't matter, and you never picked up on it.
This episode is brought to you by Inviva. Over 55 and own your home? Inviva lets you access your equity with no regular repayments, so you can stay in the home you love. Visit inviva.com.au. T's and C's apply.
Well, we didn't, like a lot of families that I'm sure your family was saying, we didn't have much money when I was a kid. And like you were saying, Mum could do so many things with mince. She could do shepherd's pie. She could do rissoles. She could do a whole bunch of different things, because all we could afford were things like mince, and if we ever had chicken, it was the cheapest chicken cuts you could get, or it was just chicken legs or something like that. And she used to cook tripe. And I loved tripe until I found out what it was. I was like, here's this white stuff coming out with a nice creamy mushroom sauce. Oh great. And I go, what's that? That's tripe. Oh, great. Okay. And then finally, when I forget how old I was, 7 or 8 ago, by the way, what is tripe?
That was
part of the animal. Yeah. I was instantly could never eat it again after that. But, our mothers could cook anything. If you just stuck it in front of them, they could cook anything.
My mum used to have this theory that if you crumbed anything, people would eat it.
Yep, absolutely.
And it wasn't tripe, although I could have had tripe and I just didn't know it. I remember I must have been 10, and this thing landed on the plate, and it was crumbed, and it was just try it first, and and you'll like it. You'll like it. And I thought, when you get that message, know that it's not exactly, it's not going to be lamb. It's just not going to be lamb.
It's going to be some sort of offal.
Yeah, it was. Well, it kind of was, and it was sort of. It was lamb, but it was lamb's tongues.
Oh!
I didn't know you could buy lamb's tongues. But and I took a bite, and as soon as I thought it tastes okay, but now that I know what it is,
can't go there.
Not so much. Not so much. Doesn't matter how much sauce you put on it.
Yeah,
it's just not happening, is it?
Yeah. So. Well, my grandfather used to bring home rabbits that he'd been out shooting, and it was my grandmother's job to skin them and to cook them. And the same with, they had some chickens in the backyard. He'd go down and kill a chook and bring it up to her. She'd have to pluck it and do everything that she had to do to prepare it for dinner that night. Like, these women she was extraordinary. Can you imagine us having to do that? I couldn't do it.
No.
I couldn't do it. But our grandmothers were very, very strong women, and that was just the way they lived.
Yep, 100%. Did you have a mum that, like, it could have been, a nice day outside, but if there was some cloud, you had to pack a jumper just in case.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not going to rain. but just in case.
Yeah,
So,
and the bit of advice you'd get going out the door would be, okay, be careful, and then you'd be gone for 8 hours.
Yeah. Was that a bit of lip service? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that also? I used to get that occasion. You'll understand when you're older.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I did or didn't understand, but apparently
and
that
because
was
I said so.
Did you drive your mother to that point?
Absolutely, yeah. And it wasn't until I became a mother that I realised that, sometimes when your kids say, why can't I do this or why can't I have that? Sometimes the answer is so hard to explain. It's just easier to go, because I said so.
Yeah.
Even though I promised myself I'd never do that to my kids, I found myself a couple of times going, you know what, I can't have this conversation right now. Just, I'm saying no, and it's because I said so.
Yeah. Did your mum have a magic handbag like Mary Poppins where there would just be, you'd never know what was in it? But
oh, yeah, and you couldn't go in there. Like, you never go into mum's handbag. God, no.
Yeah. Is that a mother thing, though? Or is that just, women, maybe some men as well? Like, I mean,
secret women's business, I think. Secret mother's business.
Do you actually you don't see mums carrying, like young mums carrying bags anymore, do you?
Yeah, I think so. It's probably more likely to be a backpack if it's a young mum.
True. You're
all the stuff in there.
Yeah, but there's everything from tissues to boiled lollies to folded shopping lists and all that sort of thing. So I don't know. And I know we recently had lunch with a dear, dear friend and her mum. And it was, you talk about, 15 different ways to do mince, and it wasn't mince. It was a beautiful meal, but just wants to keep feeding you. Why there wasn't an obesity problem? Although, did you have to go out and play? Is like regardless.
Yeah.
Go outside. And play.
We'd be out playing with the neighbourhood kids all day.
Yeah.
But mum, I can't remember my mum overfeeding us. It was meat and 3 veg every night, and lunch was at a set time and breakfast was at a set time. There wasn't sort of these, it wasn't a buffet of food every night.
Yeah.
But we did have to finish everything on our plate.
Oh, yes, that's right. Did you oh, well, you couldn't hide the peas under the mash in your house then? No,
and you could flick them across the table at your sister. But that always ended badly. Like she'd kick me underneath the table if I did that.
I had a conversation with a friend a couple of weeks ago who said that they used to actually put food into their pocket, like from the dinner. They didn't flick it across at their brother or sister or
just
hide it.
Hide it from mum or dad.
Yeah, it might have been. I don't know what it was. I mean, I guess if it was,
Brussels sprouts.
They used to just, like, when mum wasn't watching, I'm sure mum was, because mum's got eyes in the back of her head. Yeah. Yes. He'd stick it in his pocket, and so, like, off he'd go, I finished, mum. But, and eyes in the back of your head. Yeah, that's right.
I can remember one of my kids, might have been my daughter, when she was about 5 or 6, she came up to the back of me one day. I was sitting on the lounge and she's lifted up my hair and I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm looking for the eyes, because you said you had eyes in the back of your head." And she was seriously looking for them, and I was like, oh my goodness, this stuff does stay with your kids for a long time.
Oh, no.
What about the wooden spoon? Did you?
Yes.
The wooden spoon, wasn't that always? And wait till your father gets home. They're 2 different types of discipline.
Yes. Is that wait till your father? Is that the next level, or is that just deferring of
It's deferring. I always thought that we were led to believe it was the next level. You were in serious trouble if you had to go to your room and wait till your father got home. But I think now I realise it was just mum going, I don't know what to do with this kid. Yep. I'm at my wit's end. I need her to go away till your father gets home. And my dad would come in when he'd get home and he'd go, "Well, what did you do?" "Oh, yeah, I hit my sister." And he'd be like, "Okay, well, go and say you're sorry and you can come out." And that was the end of it. Like, I was led to believe this whole big drama was going to happen when Dad got home, but it never did. Dad was always very sweet and nice about it. But
is that's a big emotional thing though too, isn't it? It's not like you've got that fear for like 20 minutes, half hour, and it gives mum time out.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Kids would be taking mothers to court these days for PTSD or whatever it is.
Oh, exactly.
Because they're emotionally scarred from wait till your father gets home and whether it was the wooden spoon. We used to occasionally get the feather duster.
Oh,
And
did you get whacked with a feather duster?
Wasn't the fluffy end either.
Oh.
I'm telling you now. It wasn't the fluffy end because they used to be little cane. They used to be made out of cane ends, and it was. And I think it prepared me for probably any trouble I might have got into at school.
Did your mum smack you, or your dad, or both?
I don't. I think Dad smacked me once.
I think the same. I have a vague recollection that maybe my mum smacked me on the back of the legs once, but it certainly wasn't. Like it didn't happen regularly. Can't even remember, yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that the threat of the wooden spoon would come out and the threat of the feather duster. I may have got the feather duster. It didn't scar me. The fact that I'm having to rack my brain, and you probably have to too, that, it's like putting the smoking gun on the table in front of the, that you'll confess to whatever
it is, And then also the ferocity at which you yanked out the second drawer in the kitchen, right, I'm getting the wooden spoon. And because of all the stuff that's in the second drawer, and everyone's second drawer is the same, all your kitchen utensils are in there, you'd pull it out really hard and everything would rattle and the kids would just scatter.
Yeah.
They'd be gone. You wouldn't have to actually even get it out of the drawer.
Oh, look. Now you're bringing it all to the surface. Oh, I remember I used to get in trouble a lot, not for anything serious, but one of the things that I used to get in trouble for was, apart from breaking Dad's golf clubs because occasionally I'd use them for something else other than playing golf, is we had a massive mulberry tree. And I think a lot of houses had fruit trees and veggie gardens and, and all that sort of thing. And our mulberry tree was so big, I'd be able to hide under it and eat the mulberries. And it'd be all out, and I didn't know how to get it off my face. But, I'd get in trouble because I wasn't allowed to, because Mum would actually go out of her way to make everything from mulberry jam to mulberry pies, anything to get rid of these damn mulberries, but give them to all the neighbours. And I don't know whether that's a mum thing, a neighbour thing. It's like bringing in the washing for your neighbours, and that's something that you don't see anymore. But I think that's not necessarily a mum thing, is it? But
I think everyone's mum and grandma could make jam and stuff, couldn't they? I think that was something that was passed. And everyone's mum and grandma could sew, which we don't do anymore. Like I can manage to get sew a button on, but my mum made all of our clothes when we were growing up, because money was an issue, so she would make clothes and she'd get out the Singer sewing machine, and that was one of my great memories of childhood, was talking to Mum while she was making stuff on the machine.
That's a nice memory to have. I had to explain that to my grandson only last week, and said Mum or Grandma would sit there behind the Singer or the Benina or the Brother sewing machine, and you'd hear the little bobbins going and the put on the thing and a few first words when the cotton would break, and off you go, whether it was a blouse, a pair of shorts, whatever it was. You wouldn't just pop on down to your local sort of hypermarket.
And you just don't see that anymore, do you? And Mum would make, every time we had to wear something special to school, Mum would make the costume. Whatever it was, she would fashion. None of this going down to Spotlight like we do these days, and the costumes are already there, ready to go. You just pay your $20 and you've got a Superman outfit. Mum would make all that stuff for us if we had to have an Easter bonnet for the Easter bonnet parade, or, oh, Mum, I've got to go dressed as a bumblebee, and Mum would make a costume.
Yeah.
They were so talented, weren't they?
Yeah, those skills they're not lost, but I mean it's obviously cheaper these days to go and buy something rather than going down to your fabric shop and choosing the fabric, spending the time to actually make something, working out that you stitched 3 arms on there instead of 2. But they're adept at all those sort of things, whether it was knitting, whether it was crocheting, whether it was sewing, as well as being a mother, and probably having surrogate kids all the way up and down the street when you just brought them back to play without any announcement, and so, and that was something I remember as well, that you occasionally would go down the street and all of a sudden there'd be 6 or 7 kids in your backyard, and Mum would come out and with the homemade ice blocks that she'd put in the freezer the night before,
or some cordial or something. If you were really lucky, you might get some cordial or some homemade bicky or something like that.
Yeah, weren't mums good?
Oh, Mums were great, and I remember, my mum used to always say, "Now make sure you've got clean underwear on, because if you're involved in an accident and the ambulance needs to take you to hospital, it's imperative to have clean underwear."
You were rich. You had underwear.
With
Wow.
big bloomers, yes.
Yeah.
And I think everyone's mum would, like, when you think about the logic behind that now, that I'm sure the ambulance officer is going to go, "Oh, hang on, we've got to fix this girl. She's been hit by, oh, wait, she's got dirty undies. Let's just leave her."
or they don't match.
Yeah, that's right.
They don't match. Yeah. Just worry about the next bloke. So
yeah. So you're a granddad. And your lovely wife, Kathy, is a grandma. Tell us about Kath as a mum. What jumps out to you about her as a mum?
I think most fathers, and I know I'm generalising here, but most fathers always have that guilt complex as well, because mums, for the most part, even if they're working, they seem to make that effort to either getting kids to school or being home, and I think fathers always have that. And so that's the beauty of being a grandfather, because you get that second chance sometimes if you've got grandkids, because you can be on hand. But she was a great mum, and she always made sure that there was lots of love for, all the girls. But, and the girls would always say, "Oh, there were way too many rules." But, I don't think there were. That might have come from me a little bit too. I'm not as laissez-faire with the rule bending as maybe my wife. But look, the girls, having grown up, they just know that there's a certain age where you sort of get instructed by your mum that this is the right thing and this is the wrong thing. And at a certain age, you can make that choice. You know the difference of being able to do that. But yeah, look, I think my kids had a great sort of time growing up. I don't know about you and your sister and how that all sort of panned out, but
yeah, we had a lot of. My sister had a lot of mental health issues growing up, so there was it was quite a struggle at times in my family, but Mum always held it together. She was amazing. That she was always. Because Dad had to go out and work and was at one stage working 3 jobs to support the family, and Mum was there, and she had to deal with a lot of the issues that we were facing. So, in the 70s and 80s. But, it was tough. And when I think of myself as a mother, I always was worried that I would be a crap mother. And when I say that, I mean I was worried my kids would turn out to be, let's just say, not great citizens. And somehow I would stuff up the kids. But to my surprise, my kids all turned out okay, despite the fact that I just stumbled through motherhood, hoping I was doing the right thing and making the right decisions, not really knowing what I was doing, because no mother does. You sort of, no one's been a mother before, so how do I do this? How do I navigate this? But I think it's really important for your kids to know that as a mother, you make mistakes, and sometimes you're going to make the wrong decisions, but you're making them from a place of their best interests at heart. So I've always been, with my kids, very big on apologising if I get it wrong. And if it turns out I did make a wrong decision, I go, "Hey guys, sorry about that." Or if I was cranky or whatever, "Hey, sorry, I've had a bad day. Mum's a bit angry," and I would apologise to them, and hopefully by showing them that respect, it would teach them that as well. Yeah. So
look, I know your kids. I've met your kids, and you're a great mum. But none of us, no mums, no dads. There's no book. I mean, I know if you choose to be or lucky enough to be a parent, there is no book. There is no answers.
There's plenty of books, but they don't always relate to you and your situation.
That's right, but there's no right and wrong answers. Everyone's an individual, and that's just how life is, and we all make mistakes. We all try to do the best for our kids. I know, like I say, you're a wonderful mum. You've got wonderful kids. I've occasionally been called a mother, but I don't think that's been taken in the right way. But having said that, I can hear Mum now saying, "Guy, Kayley, the street lights are about to come on. It's time to go home." So I think it's time.
Is it time? Do we have to get out of here?
Yeah.
It's going to crap on about how great I am, but as a mother,
No, leave that to me next time.
Right you are.
Okay, speak to you later.
See?
Bye-bye.
Bye, all the mums.
The views and opinions expressed on the Big 60 are personal and reflect those of the hosts and guests. They do not represent the views or positions of any affiliated organisations or companies. This podcast is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be construed as professional advice. Please consult with a qualified professional for guidance on any personal matters.
Oh, and before we go, let's give credit where credit is due. Kayley Harris and I came up with all the genius content for this week's episode. Our producer, Nick Abood, well, he keeps the lights on and makes sure we don't accidentally upload a cat video instead of a podcast. So, thanks for keeping us on track, Nick. Nick?